Welcome back to Book Club for Two Plus You. And we're back with February's book, New Moon. And let me tell you what, I think we're going to need a drink to get through this one. So, shall we? Ready? Get Tuna. And so, cheers, because this is going to be miserable.
That's good.
What is this? It doesn't say. I want to taste yours. Tradesies. Because yours says... That's good too.
Ooh, Rob.
We're going to need this to get through New Moon because already 3 chapters in and I want to... It's great.
Oh man, it is so not. Let's not be nice.
It's so good. At the end of Twilight, we decided that we were going to DNF that book if we picked it up this day.
I already want to DNF this one.
I want to DNF this one too, but we're going to suffer through it for all of the one person that watches these videos. Because it's fun just to sit here and chit chat with you.
Yeah.
Aww.
Don't get so
Don't.
sweet.
Today I'm being sappy, so bleh. Don't get used to it, okay? At the end of Twilight, Edward is forcing Bella to go to prom even though she doesn't want to, and she's all, turn me into a vampire, and he's all, no. But that's where it leaves off, pretty much, unless I'm missing something. Nothing happened in that whole book, and then one thing happened at the end, and they're still obsessed about
it
each
was
other,
like the last,
flipping weird.
3-4 chapters that everything was
like,
wrapped up.
That could have been a novella or like a short story. It did not have to be so long.
But then there would be no point to Twilight because that was like the whole...
I rereading it, I realized that we are past our window for enjoying something like that. I think age 13 to 15 might be a good age range for Twilight, which is fine. We're just past that, which means we're just
past that, just barely.
We're just past it. Like 15 years past that. But then the other thing that I was thinking was it would have been better if it was written as a Romeo and Juliet story where they both died in the end. I think that would have made it a better story. But this one, I'm pretty sure, is a Romeo and Juliet story as referenced by the first quote in the book. That is from Romeo and Juliet, and I did peg it because I do actually like this quote, just the first line, these violent delights have violent ends. As far as nightmares go, dreaming that you're super old and wrinkly is kind of freaky. Like, didn't like that. But then I also wanted to note that I'm interested to know if Bella actually wants to be a vampire or if she just is afraid of getting old.
Or losing him.
But I don't know if she says anything, because her dream, she's not losing him. She's with him until the end. So, like, it sounds like she's not actually afraid of that. She's not afraid of losing him, or her subconscious is not afraid of losing him. But she is afraid of being old with him, which, is that a valid reason for wanting to become a vampire? Just, I'm afraid to get old, so, like, keep me young and pretty? Or does she actually just want to spend forever with him? Kind of hard to tell.
Although, like a marble tribute to some forgotten pagan god of beauty.
Yes. So I did make a note later that she calls him a god or beautiful like a god or like a Greek god. I think like 4 times in the first few chapters. We get it. You think he's pretty. Shut up. And also, like, I've seen the busts of those Greek gods. Like, they're not. Can we use another, like, descriptor, please? Thank you.
The peens aren't even that big.
Yeah, tiny wieners. Who wants them?
Sorry. You brought it up, okay?
You brought it up. I said the busts were ugly.
Why? Like, who would be upset with their partner, like, spending money on them? Like,
at a teenage level, like...
I did not care. I was broke. I was broke. Even as an adult, I don't care. But as a teenager, I was broke. When Austin would take me out anywhere, I'm like, hell yeah, like
because I did say last time that I was more interested in like the actual vampire lore than I was, or like the monster building than I was the rest of the story, because it was just more interesting. But he talks about the venom, his venom coated teeth, and they keep a safe distance between her skin and his razor sharp venom coated teeth. And I was just thinking that they must be like closed mouth kissing this entire time, right? Like, so if his teeth are venom coated, then she can't tongue him because then the venom would get in her system and she would turn into a vampire.
I should have sent you that TikTok. What's her name? Sarah? Stephanie, Sarah, whatever her name is.
Oh, Gallagher. Yeah,
Gallagher, yeah.
Yeah, so
she made a thing about it.
Closed mouth
how
kissing.
The entire time, even whenever they're married, up until they
Can you imagine?
It's open mouth kisses the entire 4 books until they have sex. No, thank you.
That's weird. I mean,
I don't want to be stuck with you if you can't kiss.
Movie kisses, even they open their mouth like a little bit at least. So I just thought it was weird that it was like these passionate kisses that she's describing are just like, And I was like, this is just making it weirder. I don't know. Really. They're talking about watching Romeo and Juliet. And I marked this as a cringe moment because he says, I'm going to be watching you because I've already seen this a bajillion times, but I'm going to be watching you. And then he asks her, will you cry? And she says, probably if I'm paying attention to the movie. And I marked this as cringe because my first thought was flicking back to the last book where she got the lullaby, or he played the lullaby and she cried and he like swiped her tear and licked it. And I was wondering, I bet you he's like, will you cry? Because he wants to lick her tears. He's like, this is an acceptable body fluid for me to be licking.
Can we stop?
So can you please cry? Fluids? Well, it's true. Well, seriously.
Listen, I have no problem with body fluids, but body fluids
it's an acceptable setting,
thing. But they're
because he can't drink her blood, so like tears have to be there.
No, he's already drank her blood, so whatever.
I'm just saying, like he says he's not going to. So like, are tears an acceptable part? So do you think he's like excited that she's gonna cry? Because if she cries, then he can like up the side of her face like a dog, or like.
If somebody did that to me, I would smack the shit out of them.
I'm just thinking, like, this is gross.
The part where, so I was thinking maybe I would go to Italy and do something to provoke the Volturi. And I wrote, at this point, she should have just named chapter 1 foreshadowing. She's literally told us everything that's going to happen in this book.
We already know how it ends. The end, done.
Yeah, she's literally like 2 or 3 big events she has foreshadowed already in chapter 1.
It has a red one, and it's a red flag for Charlie because F that guy. Book Charlie makes me angry. He walks in with a pizza, like, okay, go dad. Brought pizza home for Edward and Bella to eat. Like, that's awesome. But his comment, I thought you'd like a break from cooking and washing dishes for your birthday.
I didn't like it.
Charlie, you dickhead. Like, seriously? She is 17. What do you mean she wants a break from cooking? Okay. I don't like Book Charlie. I'm just saying. They have to develop film. Everything is digital these days, so I laughed at the fact that she was like, "Oh, I'll just get these developed."
Turn out.
And then I laughed because she's like, "If I take this picture and get it developed, are you going to show up on camera?" And I was like, "Vampire lore." But he doesn't actually answer, so like. She doesn't know if he's going to show up on the film or not.
He just kind of laughs, right? Or like smiles.
What does he say? He's like, Edward started laughing. Yeah. Will you show up in this picture? Edward started laughing. And then and was still laughing when he opened the door. It's like, you dickhead, answer the question. Yeah. How is it? At the end of this chapter, she gets a paper cut from opening up.
Yeah, I have that.
Opening up her present. And Jasper just loses his shit. Right.
And I said top Jasper moment because I'm like, you could have just killed her and this like would have been over with.
Like, happy birthday, Bella, you're dead. And then I want to know if they're all really this volatile, right? So like she gets a paper cut and he immediately loses his shit and she's like, oh crap. And then she looks up and the rest of them are staring at her like hungrily. Okay. How do they function in society? Because we've got kids walking around with like bloody noses, scraped knees, like
periods.
There's stuff happening with blood everywhere, and like how, so like they're walking, by the park and they get a scraped knee and what then, chomp chomp chomp, they eat the kids. Like it just doesn't make any sense. Like, how sensitive are you? And if you know you have a human coming to your house, you're a vampire, and you have a human coming to your house because Alice has been planning this birthday party even though Bella said no, wouldn't you like go out and get dinner the night before or something? Like, wouldn't you be prepared for that scenario? That is, the whole story about Edward's mother is super sad. But they say at the end of this that Carlisle says, after all those years of indecision, I simply acted on a whim. And I feel like that just kind of like undermines the decision that he made, because he's talking about how he went back and forth. Like, he went home, he slept on it, he like had been toying with this decision of making a companion for years, and to say that he made the decision on a whim to turn Edward into a vampire just kind of like belittles all of that like internal strife that Carlisle had about being lonely. And I just don't like that, because it's not a whim. He's obviously thought about it for years and years. He's obviously very lonely.
I don't think it's bad that he wants a companion, and like we've talked about from Twilight, Charlie was coming from like that, or not Charlie, but Carlisle was coming from that place of, I wouldn't say morally gray, but like they were already dying, so he was saving them, bringing them this like new life.
Yeah.
So he wasn't turning anybody to like have fun.
No, he was lonely, and that's, I mean, I feel like that's a reasonable reaction, especially when you live forever. So I just didn't like that it belittled his decision, because whatever.
So my tab in this, so I did change, like I didn't do young Amanda in this one, I just did Amanda because like adult and
Yeah.
This was like an adult Amanda moment where I related to this as a mother. This was very emotional for me. It's the whole like you will do anything once you have kids.
Yeah.
I've always been like very adamant. Like I always put my children first, and almost sometimes like a fault. I have to be like, no, I have to have me time too. And she's still like, she's dying, she's in pain, and she's still like, save my son.
Yeah.
And my heart freaking broke. Like she knows she's dying. She knows her kid is dying. Her husband has died. Like she has nothing left, and she's still worried about her kid. I got very choked up. Okay, like I was sitting there trying not to be like, okay, I'm fine.
And talks to Edward and says, tonight is exactly the kind of thing that he fears the most. You're being put in danger because of what we are. And she says, it's not his fault. And he says, well, it's not yours either. I looked away from his wise, beautiful eyes, and I couldn't agree with that. Because
see, Carlisle is the only saving part of this scene. Like I put it as a cringe tab because, again, Bella will literally find anything to like put Edward on that pedestal, even if he doesn't deserve it.
And Carlisle is like a voice of reason and logic. Like he has been a very steady character through these two books, and for Bella just to automatically be like, and not like at least take in like, oh, maybe it's not either of our faults. Like, like you're dumb, Bella. So he makes her. She tells him this entire time, I don't want you to spend money on a birthday present. So he's like, I didn't spend money on it. And on the way home, he gives her like a mixtape of him playing piano.
Oh yeah. With
her lullaby and like some other favorite songs. And she like tears up and is like super excited. And he's just like, I did that. I just thought that was so romantic. Like that was a very like 2000 thing to do, was to give your boyfriend a mixtape, which is essentially what that is. I
still have so many CDs that Austin made me in our little CD holder.
Like, so me too. Well, not Austin, and Rob didn't even make me anything but like that. But like, I just thought it was such a sweet, thoughtful, like I listened to you. I didn't spend money on this gift, and I gave you something that I knew that you would enjoy. And it was just so thoughtful. I couldn't, like, that was definitely a romantic tab, even if, like, it wouldn't be, like, for me specifically. But the fact that he actually took the time to think about a gift for her was very nice, Edward. I will give you a little bit of credit for that. But then you immediately ruin it, like, 2 seconds later. So
I had a young Amanda tab, and it's, like, they're talking about she's like, you know how I told you I wanted to like ignore my birthday? And she's like, well, I don't want you to now. And they're talking about it. And she's like, I'd like you to try and kiss me again. And then they're describing where they're like kissing, and suddenly his lips became much more urgent. His free hand twisted into my hair and held my face securely to his. And then whatever, like it goes on, and I was like, young Amanda thought this was so spicy.
The closed mouth kissing,
because they're like grabbing each other, and I'm like, I remember this shit was like freaking turning me on.
Did you get the tummy tickles?
And I thought it was so funny because I'm like, if young Amanda read what adult Amanda reads, she would die.
My end of chapter notes for this one.
Wait. I have one more. I have one more. And it was a foreshadowing tab. I was halfway asleep. Are you okay over there? So my foreshadowing tab was I was halfway asleep, maybe more, when I realized that what his kiss had reminded me of. Last spring, when he'd had to leave me to throw James off my trail, Edward had kissed me goodbye, not knowing when or if we would see each other again. This kiss had the same almost painful edge for some reason I couldn't imagine. I shuddered in unconsciousness as if I were already having a nightmare.
Yep.
Because we know what happens in the next chapter.
Yep, and that was actually my end of the note. I didn't waste a tab on it. I just said that this chapter is obviously setting up for Edward to leave for whatever reason. He can't cope with Bella, and everything gets blown out of proportion. And the only thing I can think of while I was reading this whole chapter was that line from The Office where Andy punches the wall And he was like, that was an overreaction. So I kept saying that to myself the entire time I was reading that chapter. Well, that was an overreaction. Chapter 3.
Okay, I have a tab on the second page.
I don't have tabs for a few pages.
Okay, so I do. It's just like general notes. So they're at school. Alice is gone. Bella's like, where's Alice? He says she's with Jasper. Is he okay? He's gone away for a while. And it just bugs me how the Cullens handled this whole situation.
They all handled it poorly.
They
up and left.
They're gone. And I'm like, for her being like a part of the family, not even,
because you were eating that up in the last book.
I was.
And then
I'm
they
like,
just
for
like left
her,
her. How's
not
that make
even
you feel?
like angry. When I tell you, I was so, and I had to read part of this at like this afternoon because I was getting so annoyed with like the whole situation of them leaving her, and they're just like, deal with it. Yeah. You're cute. Okay, whatever. Yep. And then a couple pages after that, it was a red flag. Yeah, maybe it would be better if he took me away rather than his family being scattered. And I'm just like, okay, he keeps telling you how unsafe he is. You've been in several situations with him now where you've almost died.
But let's leave with him and be alone. I mean, that's reasonable. I'm just saying. I'm just kidding.
Like, my red flag Bella, like, she just, again, it's like the suicidal idealization. Yeah. And, like, whatever.
I think I stopped marking stuff in this chapter because all of it was a red flag for me. And so I, like, did it. My first one isn't until they're in the living room with Charlie. Or Edward is sitting in the living room with Charlie and she pokes her head around to take pictures.
I think, okay, mine is just before that. Of where I took my time coming back down the stairs, camera in hand, trying to ignore the butterflies in my stomach as I thought of the strange distance I didn't want to see in Edward's eyes. And I'm like, butterflies aren't good. Like, again, I said this in the last, like, I don't know, one of the previous TikToks of, like, butterflies are not a good sign for, like, young girls. They're not a good sign. You're nervous. You're anxious. Like, that's exactly what it is. It's the anxiety talking. Listen to them because they're not good. What did you mark in that section?
She's taking pictures of Edward and Charlie together on a couch, and Charlie takes a picture of her and Edward together, and then it says, enough pictures for tonight, Charlie said, and then shoved the camera into a crevice of the sofa cushions and rolled over it.
Yeah, Charlie was an asshole in this scene, like.
And I was like, Charlie, what are you doing? Like, rude. Why you ruin the electronics, dude? Like,
especially how expensive they were back
then. Yeah, just bought her that. Why'd you put? What a weird place to put the camera. But I will also make a quick note because I didn't mark it later. Was towards the end of the chapter, she uses the camera again, but she doesn't say like I went to go get it out of the couch or nothing. She just like showed up with the camera, and it's like, what would you go dig it out of the couch cushion underneath your dad? Like, what are we doing? It's just, it was a weird place to put the camera. I don't know.
I had a cringe tab. Couple pages.
Is it when she calls him a god again?
Yep. He looked like the contrast between the two of us was painful. He looked like a god. I looked very average, even for a human. And I'm just like, what the fuck is up with this low self-esteem?
I put that as a cringe tab as well.
Like, I was not the cutest in high school. I had braces, I had gap teeth, I had pimples, and I still
the picture with a feeling of disgust.
I did not even feel that low about myself. Like,
you got some problems, Bella. I'm just saying, like, this is stupid. Okay, well then, what are your notes?
Real quick. Mine was he beat me home. He was parked in Charlie's spot when I pulled up in front of the house. Basically, where like she knows he's not planning to stay. Mm-hmm. And this is an older Amanda tab because I'm like, I hate that I hate Bella, okay? I hate her with a passion. I do not like her. But I feel horrible that she's like having to go through this. Like, she knows her boyfriend's about to break up with her.
Yeah.
She knows.
That's a shitty feeling.
And I literally, my husband and I have been together for 14, 15 years this year. And I still have nightmares like this of where he's like, and I think it's because of these damn books. I swear, because I have nightmares like this where my husband's just like comes home and he's like, we're done. And then he walks away, and I have no way of getting a hold of him. And I'm like, I was reading this, and I told Austin, I was like, I swear to God, this is why I'm so insecure sometimes about us, because I was reading this when we were dating. And then, what is this one?
Red where they
flag.
start walking away. Because it was like, it looks, I made a note that said, it looks like we're going to have a Harry and the Hendersons moment where he's like, go on, I don't want you here anymore. And they're like, here it comes. Here comes the Harry and the Hendersons
note. Because he's been warning her this whole time about like going into the forest because there's dangerous things.
And then he takes her.
Like, let's go in the forest so we can break up. And then I'm going to leave you alone. Bye, Bella.
Yeah.
Die.
So my next note was a cringe, and it was just like, my note says, I swear the stupidity of these characters. They both literally 2 days ago had a full-on conversation about offing themselves if they were ever separated. Yet here they are in the middle of the woods having a conversation about separating themselves. Like, Edward, did you really think that this was the best way to handle the situation when you both know that you're essentially suicidal? Okay.
Codependent.
Do you think that if 2 days ago she said, if you ever leave me, I'm gonna, and then 2 days later you're like, I guess I'll leave, what do you think is gonna happen? I think that you need to like do some easing preparation here. And maybe that's what the conversation with Charlie in the living room was supposed to be. Like, maybe he was supposed to be like, hey, I'm about to break up with Bella, so just a heads up, you need to keep an eye on her. But they didn't say anything like that. And Charlie goes about his day like he is fucking oblivious to everything.
But that whole thing was so weird because, like, since Bella got hurt in Phoenix, he's been like anti Edward, right? Like making little comments.
Yes.
And then he's like, I'm hanging out with Edward. Like, we're watching TV. Hell no.
Oh, Charlie, I don't know. This whole chapter was just dumb. The next note that I have though says is on the next page, and it's because they say the chapter of the book in the.
Oh yeah, I had that one marked too. But when they were talking in the woods, he's like, I'm no good for you, Bella. And I was like, I agree with you, Edward. But also for these 3 chapters, I am shocked because it is so spot on to the movie. Like, the movie was spot on to the book. I shouldn't say the book was spot on, but like
they stuck pretty close to it.
They did. And I'm actually very impressed by that.
Yep.
I mean, my red flag was, again, they're in the woods. He's breaking up with her. He smiled gently. Don't worry. You're human. Your memory is no more than a sieve. Time heals all wounds for your kind. And your memories? Well, I won't forget, but my kind, we're very easily distracted.
Yeah.
And I got so pissed. And I was like, what an asshole. But in my head, I was saying douchebag. That would be a better explanation of Edward. Like, whew. I don't remember him being, okay, I do remember him being a jerk throughout this. But I'm like, oh my God. And then I did mark new moon as well.
Yep. It says, tonight the sky was utterly black. Perhaps there was no moon tonight. A lunar eclipse. A new moon.
But then later
they
on
said it.
Is our first interaction with werewolves.
With Sam.
Yes. Suddenly there was another sound, startlingly close, a kind of snuffing, an animal sound. It sounded big. I wondered if I should feel afraid. I didn't, just numb.
You know what's funny is I didn't actually pick that up. I think I was so mad reading this book that I was like, I think this is where I started texting you. I was like, I quit. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. So I
could have been done with this much faster if the kids weren't interrupting every 5 minutes.
Yeah. So I have 2 more tabs in this chapter, and I think they're like after they're found. So like she gets the note, or Charlie gets her, and she's like, "How did you find me?"
I have that marked too.
Charlie says, "Well, the note that you left, obviously," and it says that the messy handwriting was remarkably close to my own. Going for a walk with Edward up the path, it said, "Be back soon." And I marked this as a red friggin' flag because Edward walked her into the woods and gave Charlie a note to find her, knowing she'd have a panic attack out there and that he would have to leave her. Like, Edward, you jerk. Like, why not just like walk back to the house and be like, hey, Charlie, Bella's out there. She's upset. You might want to go
So I also
talk
marked
to
this
her.
as a red
Or
tab.
something. Like, what? Do something.
But I said, like, between the note and then also when she goes inside the house, okay? She goes into her room and she's like, I can't talk about this anymore. Like, she doesn't want to talk about it with the doctor and with Charlie. Excuse me.
On the last page.
And she's like, someone had been in the house to leave a note for Charlie, a note that would lead him to find me. From the minute I realized this, a horrible suspicion began to grow in my head. I rushed to my room, shutting and locking the door behind me before I ran to the CD player. Takes the CD player. He takes the album with the pictures. Like, he's trying to erase all evidence that they were in her life.
I also marked that as a red flag because he literally takes everything, and I think that's disgusting. I think that's a total violation. I think that if you're gonna leave, that's fine, leave, but like, leave a girl her memories.
Yes.
Like those, that was a extremely, that's why I said he ruins it like 2 minutes later. Like,
right.
He gives her this kind, thoughtful mixtape gift that's full of love, and then just like rips that away from her. Like, what? You are not handling this right. There's no healing in
that. Like, he's like, you'll be fine. You'll move on without me, whatever. No. But there's no healing whenever it's just like, say that he stayed away, okay? Say that, like, we were done in these first 3 chapters and that was, like, end. And she moves on with Jacob. So what, when she goes old, like, gets old and she's, like, senile and she's, like, looking back on life and she's questioning, like, did I really meet vampires? Like,
that's rude. You're gonna think she's crazy. That's like gaslighting. Like extended release gaslighting. Like, I don't like it. So my end of the chapter notes for this one was, I knew he was gonna leave, but does it cement in my head that Edward is a dick because he just handled it so poorly. Like, the whole situation. And I cannot believe that Carlisle and Esme were like, sure, let's just pack everybody up and go. Like,
not just that, but Alice, because Alice not only got close to Bella, but Charlie.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she said something like, we're going to be the best of friends or something. Yep. And like, it's why I think Alice is like full of shit, because she obviously knows what's up and she just is like, I don't like it. I don't like this. I think there's too much to pick apart. I'm just saying. And then I also made a note about the blank chapters, because the next,
I did too.
The next chapters are just like October 4 blank pages January. Of like the month listing. And I just said, thank God, because can you imagine if we had to go through 4 months of reading about what Bella is doing while she is mourning the loss of Edward? Because I was like, thank God we don't have to do that.
But it's also that like iconic scene in the movie where she's like sitting
in the window,
staring, and it's like,
thank God that's all they did. I'm just saying, because I could not handle multiple chapters.
I've always wanted to reenact that moment. I have so many scenes where I'm just like, oh my God, I want to do that.
Yep. So that's the end of the first 3 chapters of New Moon. Well, I think we did pretty good. We got 50 minutes. You know, that's still under an hour. So, so far, not looking forward to the rest of it. Still going to read it because said I would.
I told Austin last night that I, like, you had talked about how, like, you're good with DNFing in the middle of a series. And I'm like, yeah, me too. I was greatly contemplating last night to be like, are you sure you want to keep doing this?
I'm afraid to ask you to stop. So I'm going to keep running it. I don't know. Like, I feel like it's worth it to reread it. I think in my heart and soul, it's going to be worth it to finish it. But it's really hard when there are just so many better things out there that I want to read, that this is like pulling my attention away. So I am frustrated at it, but also like, I think in the end I'll be like, I'm glad I reread this. I can put it on my shelf and just be done. Like, I don't have to worry about like, was it as good as I thought it was, or because obviously the answer's no. So
deep down inside, I'm hoping that at some point it does get better.
Rapoopaloo is gonna come up, so like I don't know, like Redoodly Doo is gonna show her face, and then it's gonna go to crap. So I don't know how. I don't know how much better. But anyway, so first 3 chapters of New Moon.
Yay.
Yay. We're gonna keep doing this.
As,
whether we like to or not.
Shitty as this book has
This part is
been,
fun.
Yes, and it's doing wonderful things for my mental health right now.
Yeah.
Because I mean, life sucks, but it doesn't suck as bad as Bella.
It doesn't suck as bad as Twilight does. So, okay, well, cheers. You know, good first 3 chapters. We're gonna do this again. So, okay. Do we need an outtake? Do we have to do the?
I think I'm just gonna rely on.
So we'll just do a cheers.
Bye.